Good afternoon, and welcome to Brunch and Budget on Bonfire Radio with your host, Pamela Capellet, a certified financial planner here to help take the bite out of your budget, brunchandbudget.com. I'm your sound provider, Dialect, and here's your host, Pamela Capellet.
Thank you, Dialect, and thank you, everybody, for tuning in today. We are in San Diego, California, sitting in the flyest hospitality suite ever.
Well, maybe not ever.
Maybe not ever, but
we haven't been to all of them, but the flyest one we've been to at least this week.
We got a view of the bay, we got a view of some water and the whole city, and we are super excited for our guests today. We have Heather Jarvis, student loan expert, Heather Jarvis Esquire. She's also an attorney. She just freaking does it all.
She's not just like from Bill and Ted.
No.
She earned her Esquire.
She sure did. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me. I'm thrilled to be here with you guys.
I know that a lot of you have a lot of questions about student loans and how to look at them and how to break them down, and Heather is the expert. I literally 2 days ago sat in an 8-hour student loan intensive. Yes, 8 hours. And somehow we got through it all, and we were super engaged, and we all wanted more because, guys, this shit is complicated, and I'm sure you know that.
And you know we really don't love using the word expert because lots of people love to call themselves experts without enough expertise. So when we call somebody an expert, trust us, they're an expert.
Trust us. Heather Jarvis. And Heather has tons of information on her site, askheatherjarvis.com. And I'm going to let Heather tell us how she came from being an attorney who was helping death row inmates, from what I've heard, to being a student loan expert.
Well, you know, it's funny because you talk about being an expert, and I like to joke that I was a personal student loan expert before I was a professional one, you know. So way before I had my law degree, I knew a lot about student loans because my sister and I are first generation college educated. My father is a high school dropout. My mother, worked hard but never earned any education. And, but they were both, smart and like weirdly intellectual. Like it was a lot of, opera and Shakespeare for me, and a lot of books in the home, but no education. Just information about like education is the key, So I started borrowing money to pay for education when I was 18 years old. I got my first student loan, and I borrowed all the way until I was, 30, and had a, law degree from Duke, cum laude, or however you pronounce it.
Wow.
Yeah, and $125,000 in student loan debt, which is like not super impressive maybe to some members of your audience, but like when I graduated from law school 15 years ago, it was precocious. I was on the cutting edge of like
student loan debt amounts,
student loan borrowing.
On the frontier, Heather Jarvis.
And then I had always planned on representing poor people because I wanted to represent people that were accused of crimes and were being prosecuted by the government, because I saw that as a power differential that like I didn't like, and so I got a great job that was awesome. But my first job out of law school, I made $25,000 a year.
Whoa, let's pause and rewind, because I thought that the reason you didn't go and become a teacher or work at the nonprofit is because you didn't want to make $25,000 a year. You were a lawyer.
You went through law school.
You passed the bar, right?
Oh yeah. First time, like no shit. I was like top, I think 10% of my class at one of the most prestigious law schools in the world, right? So, and because I am not that smart, so like I didn't have any advice from anybody like Pam, and I just never been driven by money, So like even though I owed all that money, I wanted to do a certain kind of work, and that's what you got paid. I mean, when you represent poor people, there's just no money in it, and I literally turned down a job offer for a 6-figure salary. I mean, that was back in the day. The economy was different, and people who were getting the degree I got, we were being flown first class, first time I'd ever done that, from Durham, North Carolina to New York City. We were put up in these amazing hotels, and there was like gifts waiting for you in the room when you got there. Like I was recruited heavy, and it was really fun. Like I must say, I enjoyed the white glove and the food and everything else. But in fact, the whole time I was doing it, I was like, yeah, this is not where I belong. I was like, I can hang out with these people, but these are not my people, And so I took a job at a nonprofit law firm. I made $25,000, and I was able to do it because my law school had a loan repayment assistance program for people who chose public service jobs.
Oh, so this was financed or subsidized in a sense by your law school if you decided to go that route. So
That's
how
right.
did that work?
So they helped me make my student loan payments, which was a huge benefit, because back then you couldn't get an affordable payment even on your federal loans, essentially no matter what. Like my payments were $1,500 a month on my student loans.
That was all your money.
Yeah. And I also had other advantages, like being married to a guy with a job, you know, and that kind of thing. So that's what made it possible.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so you're defending people on death row. You're doing public service, and this is long before. And we're gonna get into this, y'all, after a song or two. But long before there were federal forgiveness programs or any kind of income-based assistance or anything like that. So you were relying on your school's basically subsidy to do this.
That's exactly right. And that's why I, along with a lot of other people, busted my ass to get income-based repayment and public service loan forgiveness passed.
So you were part of that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Heather.
Oh, well, I wish they would have let me like draft the bill, because I would have made it a lot less complicated, because it's fabulously generous, but it's like so tricky to navigate the process, and that's a real failing of the program. So
totally. So how did you transition from being a public defender essentially to doing student loans? You were doing your own, and did people just start asking you to do theirs? They had their own questions.
Yeah. Well, so now you've opened a can of worms. So I'm going along doing this work and everything, and so I'll just say it flat out. So my husband dropped dead suddenly. I was 30 years old. We had a 17-month-old son. And part of how I was able to make it work was that we were a two-income family. I mean, he didn't make a lot of money, but he had a job, and we made money. And we were unprepared. He wasn't insured because he wasn't sick. He just had a fatal arrhythmia. So I woke up and he was dead. And so I was, so I know that wasn't what we were planning to talk about today. But that's been 15 years ago, and we're fine. But it made me, for the first time in my life, I had to figure the money stuff out. Like, I couldn't just be like the girl who was like, I don't need a lot, like, I'll live frugally, I'll do what's important to me, and I don't need a lot. I was like, okay, now I've got a child and student loans and no other income, and like, I need to figure this out. So I figured it out, and I wanted to stop doing death penalty work because it was too heavy when I was grieving.
Right.
And so I got an opportunity to work for a nonprofit in Washington, D.C. And the mission, this is a place called Equal Justice Works. And their mission was to make it more likely for lawyers to do public service. So we all knew that, like, student loans are holding lawyers back from doing more public service. That and some other things. Yeah. So they hired someone to become their student debt expert. And I said to them, hey, let me do it. I know a lot about student loans already. Yeah. I really care about this, and I'll do my best. And so I had a half a dozen years getting a paycheck from a nonprofit where it was my job to get up to speed on this stuff. And so I spent all that time learning it and working on, change, policy, education, cool stuff like that. And it was fantastic. So then I sort of struck out on my own, and now I'm like in private business, teaching other people about those things.
So you run your own business, basically.
Yeah, and I've been in business for 5 years. So, and I have kind of like a mission. So I'm not a nonprofit because that's a big pain to set up and everything else. And so, but my business is teaching people at universities and in professional associations and other lawyers, financial planners about these complex programs that I was around for the development of while they were kind of percolating up in Washington.
So could someone hire you to come speak at a university for students, for staff? How does that work?
Yeah, both. So, so I work with mostly graduate and professional schools because my kind of niche within a niche is people with high student loan balances. So people that are usually have educations beyond undergraduate school, although I do work for some in undergraduate. And yeah, universities will often hire me to come and I'll do like a full day of stuff, and I'll do meetings with administrators and sort of brief them on stuff, and then I'll do like a session for students at lunchtime, and then a session for alums, after school. Like after we are talking today, I'm going to go do a webinar for the Columbia School of Social Work alumni.
Oh, talk about a master's degree where you go into a lot of debt and don't make a lot of money.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And it'll be great, because these are all folks who are doing good work and are underpaid, but who have real expensive educations.
Yeah, totally. So, guys, I just want to reiterate, it's a really big deal that Heather is here talking to us saying no, because you were part of the movement that got us to the point where there are forgiveness programs and where the federal government is recognizing that this is a problem. And without the work that you've done, we wouldn't be where we are today.
Well, thanks, Pam.
Yes.
Cool. But it definitely takes, a team. And I contributed, and many other people did as well. But I appreciate it.
Oh, my God. So we got to go to a song before we really dive in, because it's really complicated. There's a lot going on with the federal programs. There's a lot going on with private loans. There's a lot more predatory lending, less predatory lending now. A lot more private loan options I've seen.
Yeah, I feel like private student loans are better than they used to be for, many people.
Okay.
But there's certainly, when it comes to predatory lending, there's lots going on there for sure.
Got it. So we'll talk about that too. What do we got, Dialect?
Well, since Heather and I were speaking before we recorded a little bit about theater and music, and we know that we have a number of Raptors that are family with the Bonfire fam. So I decided to dig into our Raptors, and I've got this young lady. She's a member of the Mobile Shakespeare unit with the Public. She was the lead in a reading of a hip-hop play that I wrote, and she's a fantastic MC. She goes by the name of Robin Hood, and here's her song, Heroine. We'll check you in a minute. Brunch and Budget, Bonfire Radio.
Nina, oh Nina, where have you gone? There's so much crazy in the world going on. Wish you was right here to bless us with your song. Beautiful, black queen, brilliant and strong. Nina, oh Nina, where have you gone? There's so much crazy in the world going on. Wish you was right here to bless us with your song. Beautiful, black queen, brilliant and strong. Yeah, yeah. Come on, come on. Yo, I'm up and at 'em, no time to waste. I got years shooting Bobby, they be grazing at my face. Procrastination is my enemy. I buck 'em when I see 'em. Time to the bed and get the bait you out your misery. Sledgehammer your ankles and give you obese lady cankles. Irritate you like a blister, wrangle you. I'm doing chin ups, preserve my realish figure. Refilling my brain clip, sharpen up my trigger. Finger, point up, index, no text. Face to face with it like two lightweight hitters. Metaphorical slang, all that crap that comes my way. Send you on a detour, route you another way. Navigation patience. Bob Marley see you right like it's BBC docu. Caribbean nights, too many flakes in the bowl. Like I'm eating cereal. Break fast on these cats, catch 'em with an aerial. Switch your section on your dial, stereotypical. Yeah, come on. Yeah, Nina, oh Nina, where have you gone? There's so much crazy in the world going on. Wish you was right here to bless us with your song. Beautiful, black queen, brilliant and strong. Nina, oh Nina, where have you gone? There's so much crazy in the world going on. Wish you was right here to bless us with your song. Beautiful, black queen, brilliant and strong. I said it's all love here, no fussing, no cussing, no shooting, no slicing, just sisterly enticing. Got that brotherly love, unconditional like above. Only bring the peace, olive brand, love. On my little pocket watch, just ticking and timing, constantly redefining my people as a whole. Bless my youngers with some knowledge, get them off parole. Working on that soul, life in control. Driving in their own lane, switching up the roads. Let them be kids, they been old since it's 5 years old. Fast life, no pops, a lot of strife. Single parent women hustling to get them life and shelter. Love plus the discipline. Go ahead with your man self, mommy. Keep on getting it in. School and working, no clowning but juggling. Dealing with the circus, trying to put it in and struggling. You bustling, I see you. Wouldn't want to be you if I had a cap on. I take it off and salute you. My sis, you real. Nina, oh Nina, where have you gone? There's so much crazy in the world going on. Wish you was right here to bless us with your song. Beautiful, black queen, brilliant and strong. Nina, oh Nina, where have you gone? There's so much crazy in the world going on. Wish you was right here to bless us with your song. Beautiful, black queen, brilliant and strong. Yeah, they asked for more, I brought it. Like a stork in the night, drop that bundle off, departed. Leonardo, baby face, mixed race, African diaspora, melting pot and parted. Rolling Stone, big Philly, be the home. I was raised by the village and I'm grinding for my home. Gotta feed the block and they seeds, winter roses plus the leaves. The babies gotta eat, I'm caking up my cheese. A bit hungry, my stomach's leaning on my back, skinny's fitting loose. I'm a slim, jagged black, salt and pepper up my competition. Add that hot sauce, cook you in the oven. Yo, kitchen easy, bake off, Robin. Yeah, but I Sean Archer can't take your face off, have your eyes looking back. Exactly like this, and JG with a consistent with the trap. Also, never hit a miss. Boots leaning to the side, flat tires on my ride. True black on the wax, squeaky clean, call me Tide. Nina, oh Nina, where have you gone? There's so much crazy in the world going on. Wish you was right here to bless us with your song. Beautiful black queen, brilliant and strong. Nina, oh Nina, where have you gone? There's so much crazy in the world going on. Wish you was right here to bless us with your song. Beautiful black queen, brilliant and strong. Nina, oh Nina, where have you gone? There's so much crazy in the world going on. Wish you was right here to bless us with your song. Beautiful black queen, brilliant and strong. Nina, oh Nina, where have you gone? There's so much crazy in the world going on. Wish you was right here to bless us with your song. Beautiful black queen, brilliant and strong. Yeah, yeah. Come on, come on. Yeah, yeah. Come on, come on. Yeah.
And we're back. Brunch and Budget, Bonfire Radio. That was Heroin by Robin Hood, one of my favorite raptors out here in the scene in New York. And we're here with Heather Jarvis,
Yes,
who's not a
in
raptor.
San Diego, who's not a raptor. She's a lawyer and a student loan expert.
Whole
and is
different form of dinosaur.
a rare breed for sure. So I don't know where the beginning is, to be honest, in terms of starting. So someone has student loan debt. They're looking at it. Let's say they have 60,000 or more, right? Which I feel like is kind of the point that I've seen where it feels unmanageable if you're going to do some kind of standard plan. So if someone is looking at that student loan debt, what's the first thing they should do?
Yeah, so absolutely everyone needs to get a clear inventory of their student loans, and there's a simple way to do it.
Okay.
You need to visit the National Student Loan Data System, which is online at nslds.ed.gov, the National Student Loan Data System. And you got to go there and not anywhere else. You know, not your loan servicer's site. So we all have a company that sends us bills and that we send our payments to.
Right, we curse them every month.
We do, and you probably have an online interface that you use to like make your payments, and it's going to look a lot prettier and be easier to use than the government database. But you need to go to the government database, even though it's clunky, because that's where you'll find all the federal student loans that you have ever borrowed from the time you were in beauty school through, you know, your PhD. And it's a critical first step. So that's the first thing to do.
Okay.
The second thing to do is to get a copy of your credit report, because that's really the only way to hone in on your private student loans. There isn't any other kind of central database of information on private loans. So to get the free one, you go to annualcreditreport.com. And there's that's the place where you're entitled to have a free credit report. They'll try to sell you your credit score, but you don't need that. You just need the report. And this is what's, you know, a pain, but you have to compare the loans on your federal report to the loans on your credit report. And the ones that are on your credit report but not on the federal report are your private loans.
That's the only, got you. So like if I just log into like my student loan servicer, is there a way to tell if something's federal or private? Can you have both?
Yes. It's
Oh, God.
A lot of us have both. And certainly, you know,
With the same provider or the same
Yes,
servicer?
Yes. So,
Oh.
yeah, that's one of the reasons it's so confusing.
Yeah.
So there's these companies, they're the same ones every time. So it's like Sally Mae that's going by Navient now.
What? Hold on.
Wait.
Hold on.
Sally Mae changed her name?
Yeah, that's pretty sly, huh? They did. They changed their name, but we're not fooled, right? Navient is Sally Mae.
Oh my God. Okay.
So, yeah, guys, Navient is Sally Mae. So,
Yes.
you know,
Don't-
that's really annoying. I could have also played, there are a plethora of songs in many genres that are titled Fuck Sally Mae.
Oh, I'm not familiar with the Fuck Sally Mae genre, but I do have a student loan playlist that I will, you know, because there are some excellent songs about money and debt, you know,
Oh,
especially
Yes.
if you
yes.
if you ever go into the country realm, boy, people,
Oh, yes.
people are indebted in the country.
Man,
my
I'm
gosh.
just blown away that they're like, yo, we're going to change our name and it's going to
Yeah.
be all right.
And
no one's gonna know.
why did they change their name? Yeah, because
Right.
everyone hates Sally Mae.
I hope their logo has a bowler hat and trench coat on,
Jeez.
big
Oh my
shades.
God.
Yes. So just so you know, Sallie Mae and Navient are the same. Okay.
So you go to the Navient site and you're looking at your loans, and you can definitely get some information about what's federal, what's private, but you have to be in on some of the terminology. So
okay.
Sallie Mae / Navient is involved at every step of the process. So they are the lender of private student loans, and they've been doing that for a long time. They also are the loan servicer, which again is just it's a company that might be the same as the lender or might be another outfit that does the administering of the loan, and they bill you, they accept your payment and all of that. So Sallie Mae is a lender, Sallie Mae is a servicer of private loans, its own loans, as well as other lenders' loans. Then they also are hired by the federal government to administer or service the federal student loans. And, back in time before 2010, they were in fact originating or funding federal student loans. Sallie Mae was, and a bunch of other banks and private lenders were as well. So, that's one of the many reasons why things are really confusing. Like, if you tell me, like, I have loans, my loans are Sallie Mae, I, as a student loan expert, have learned nothing about your student loans whatsoever.
So Sallie Mae was at some point funding federal loans, and then they were funding private loans, and now they've changed into Navient, who does private and public loans.
Yep.
Oh my, okay. Just to make sure we know where we are, everybody. Oh my gosh. All right. So it doesn't matter. The loan servicer doesn't matter. You won't be able to tell if it's public or private or federal or private.
You might have some luck. So if you see the acronym FEL, F-F-E-L, that stands for a Federal Family Education Loan. So it's a type of federal loan, but it isn't a federal direct loan. So these are going to be your older federal loans, and you can count on it being federal. But you want to recognize that it's a type of federal loan that isn't the newest kind and isn't really the kind that has the most flexibility. So you might see that acronym associated with your loans. You might see, if you see the word direct in the name of your loan, then for sure, it's a federal direct loan. And so it means that the government actually funded that loan and owns that loan.
Got it.
But you will still have a company like Navient servicing the loan as a contractor for the government. And usually private loans, when you look online, will have fancy, more marketing-sounding names like Signature Plus, or like stuff like that.
Platinum loan.
Right, exactly. So the federal loans never have like sexy,
Right.
They're
like, we know this.
Well, that makes sense, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, unless you
That's
think
excellent.
Stafford is
Actually, that
sexy.
should be the first thing you look for.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. If it has a marketing sounding name, it's probably a private student loan.
Got it. Okay. So now that you've figured out what is federal and what is private, what do we do with our federal loans?
Okay, so
Big breath, everybody.
yes. So I told you I'm trained as an attorney. So as an attorney, the answer to every question is it depends.
That's my answer to every question.
Well, right. It's actually, in all honesty, the answer to most questions.
Yeah.
Like, it's
Right.
not like, what do you do with your federal loans? And the answer is something, actually that you can do with your federal loans. It depends.
Yeah.
So your federal loans are very flexible, and they will give you a lot of different choices. It can be very confusing because there are so many choices, but there are lots of ways to change your payment amount or your overall costs. Whereas private loans are much less flexible, they tend to be more risky and more expensive. So if you have both, you need to make a different strategy. And when you ask, what do you do with your federal loans, the first thing I ask is, well, do you also have private loans or not? Because if you have private student loans, chances are they're more expensive and that you would want to focus more closely on dealing with those.
Oh, okay.
What should you do with your federal loans? Well, you should probably try to get your payment as low as you can in many cases so that you can attack those private loans more, aggressively. But it really does depend on the person. So, like, I sort of, I don't want to do all lawyer disclaimer, but it really is true that, like, for people that are listening, it depends on all their circumstances and on all the details. So, I hope to give people some info they can use to help themselves, but it's like I can't give you easy answers that you can for sure count on without looking at, everything.
And I think that's an important thing that people need to get in our heads is it's individualized, and it's really important that you figure out what's going on with your situation before going through someone's explanation of what works.
Right, exactly. Well, and I would like to know what are the different factors, because it's so complicated. Like, what do you even need to consider? Like, I remember in the 8-hour intensive, I still remember stuff. It came down to like what date you took out the loan, what job you have, what how long you've been in school for, whether it's undergrad or graduate. There's so many different components to it.
Yeah. So I kind of think about it in this context. So everybody should identify exactly where they are today.
Okay.
So everyone should do a specific inventory of their loans and have the records that we just talked about. Then it's worth reflecting on what your needs are at the moment, like your primary needs. Like, are you struggling because your payments are too high and you're having difficulty making them? Or are you more worried about paying too much over time and trying to minimize the overall costs of your debt? Or are you someone who's already gotten behind on your loans, or what? So once you know that, you can identify sort of what do you need. Do you need some payment relief, or do you need to be sure you're clear on the forgiveness provisions so that you can earn some forgiveness, or what? And only then are you really in a position where you can evaluate your options. And that's where we got into all of the nitpicky, like, eligibility requirements that are going to be things like when you borrowed and how much money you make and how much you owe and what your interest rates are and all
tax
that.
Filing status.
Right,
that was another crazy one.
Married people need to understand that, if you choose to file a joint return with your spouse, like many married people do, because there's tax benefits to doing it, that can have implications for your federal loan payments under the income-driven repayment options. And that's something a lot of folks should look into, Pam, is the income-driven federal repayment options.
Okay.
Yeah, they are a better way for many of us to get an affordable payment than just like postponing our payments with forbearance or deferment. And I find a lot more people than should be are not making, not enrolled in a repayment plan. And if you're not making a lot of money, you're not going to have to pay a lot. In fact, there are loads of people who don't have to pay anything under an income-driven repayment plan.
Oh, and it'll still count as a payment.
Yes, exactly. And it's way better than just like postponing payments.
So a zero payment on an income-driven plan is different than just forbearing the plan.
Exactly. And forbearance is not great for student loan borrowers. Like, it used to be a vital tool because it was kind of the only way that you could not have to make a payment. And
right.
If you're broke and you can't make a payment, you'd get in forbearance and it would help. But now you have other options. And so if you don't have a high income, you should really consider the income-driven plans and enrolling in a repayment plan and getting your payments set at potentially zero or some other low affordable amount tied to your income, because you're going to have a lot of other benefits from choosing that over forbearance.
Okay. And I feel like there's a limit to how much you can forbear, right? Is that the right verb?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure if it's English, but it's
I do want to forbear as a verb. Yes. I want to do that.
Me too.
And you're really forbearing me now, So what was the question?
Oh, if there's a limit to forbearance.
Yeah, right. So you're supposed to have only 3 years in the aggregate. So you can use it
total.
Total for
really? Total?
Yeah,
wow.
Total for you, the person. But I think one of the reasons that's surprising to you is because that has not been enforced until really, really recently.
Oh.
It's been the rule for a long time
Yeah.
that you're supposed to only get 3 years in total over your life as the borrower for your loans. But it was routinely granted in lengths of time longer than that in the past. And then it became clear, though, that a lot of people's balances were just going up and up and up, and it hurts us as borrowers
right.
in many ways, too. So now they've started actually limiting people to 3 years, and it's kind of a double-edged sword for people.
Yeah. So you don't want to use that up. So So I know there's so many programs, and I'm not even sure if it's necessarily gonna make sense to go through them all, but is there anything, before we go through them, if you call your student loan servicer, are there any like magic words that you can say to get them to give you the best options?
Magic words to say to your loan servicer? No. So, I would suggest that people start by recognizing that your loan servicer is who you have to coordinate with.
Yeah.
You don't have an option, but it is smart to get a little bit educated about your loans yourself first.
Okay.
Because many times the servicing companies have they have large call centers. They're not necessarily able to, effectively handle sophisticated questions, and there isn't anybody that's exactly watching out for you, the student loan borrower. So, a site that I like. There's a couple sites I like. The government has some good stuff on studentloans.gov.
Okay.
So studentloans.gov,
you can remember.
Yeah, and you can log in there with your federal student aid password and user ID and actually see your information. And there's something called a repayment estimator there. It's a little hard to find. It's on the left sidebar, like down toward the bottom. And that'll show you kind of what your monthly payment amounts would be under some of the different repayment plans. It doesn't make it real clear which ones you have access to or not. So for that, it's a 6-page document, which I know is a lot, especially for all of us have only 140 character attention span or whatever. But like if you owe a bunch of money, like you can read 6 pages, and there is an income-driven repayment fact sheet that the government has out. You can get to it through my website or through studentaid.ed.gov.
Yeah.
That's a good one. And that it's like a table that shows the different plans, the different qualifications, and how they calculate payments and the like.
So we're looking at this thing. Is there a certain order? How many are there? There's 1, 2, 3. There's like 5 of them, 6 of them now?
Yeah, depending on how you count them. So, yeah, there's 2 different kinds of so when I say income-driven repayment, I use that as an umbrella term to cover all of the payment plans that care how much money you're making in setting your monthly payment. And so under that umbrella is income-based repayment, but there are 2 versions of income-based repayment.
Okay.
Then there's also a plan called Pay As You Earn. There's also revised Pay As You Earn. And then there is the older and less useful for most people plan called income contingent repayment. So, most people can pretty safely ignore income contingent repayment.
Okay.
So focus your attention on income-based repayment and Pay As You Earn and revised Pay As You Earn.
Okay.
And then, for the most part, if you're someone who qualifies to choose the plan called Pay As You Earn, PAYE, that is often better for folks than, income-based repayment or revised Pay As You Earn.
So is that something, if you ask your student loan servicer, do I qualify for Pay As You Earn, would they be able to help you figure that out?
Yes, they would.
Cool.
Yes, they would. Yeah, and that's where it comes down to the borrowing dates and things that we were talking about before. And in general, it has to do with how long ago you started borrowing your loans. So, people who've been in school for a really long time are those that aren't eligible for Pay As You Earn. But if you didn't start borrowing until late 2007 or later, so if you've been borrowing just more recently than that, you're more likely to qualify for Pay As You Earn. But of course, with any of this stuff, it's a little more complicated even than that.
Yeah, absolutely. And what are the benefits of being on Pay As You Earn?
So Pay As You Earn sets your payments at 10% of a figure called discretionary income, which is arrived at by a very elaborate formula. You had a follow-up question on that.
I wanted to, it's different from adjusted gross income, right?
It is. It's based on adjusted gross income, but it's more complicated than that. So what they do is they look at the federal poverty rate that corresponds with your family size. So the federal government publishes this thing called a poverty rate, which is based on essentially nothing from what I can gather. Like, and it's got some weird history. Like, I think it was, I mean, I might be wrong, but I'll say it anyway.
No, I'm fairly familiar. The poverty line has a terrifying and weird history, and it really is kind of based on speculation. Well, it's not that it's based on nothing. It's to be quick about it. It's based on speculation that was based on nothing. Yeah, that's old.
Right, it's old speculation.
So it's really arbitrary.
Based on nothing. And there might have been something about like the cost of groceries in the 1950s or something. Like God. I think there was.
Yeah, I think there, something about that. Yeah,
there's something about that. So we'll just that's for another day. But so they
that's a whole nother show.
But they they publish it for whatever it's based on.
Yeah,
it's the federal poverty rate, and like right now I think it's like $11,800 or something like that for a single person.
Whoa.
It's like no shit, you're poor if you make it that. I mean,
which is also not to belabor, but it's hilarious considering how 11,000 means one thing in Tulsa and means another thing in New York.
It's right. Right.
Yeah, and there is no adjustment for cost of living. So, with the exception of, for some reason, you do get a little bit more if you're not in the contiguous U.S., which I always like an opportunity to say contiguous, because how often can you say that?
Right? So for once, the territories get something. Can't vote for president, but we can.
Oh wait.
Well, and it's not just the territory. It's actually not specifically the territories. It's Alaska and Hawaii.
It's really just them two. Man.
Sorry, Puerto Rico.
Oh, sorry, screwed again.
Oh man.
So they look at the federal poverty rate, and then they take 150% of that amount for some reason, because that's what they came up with.
And they made up something else.
They made up something else, and then they say, okay, that money is protected, and you don't have to use it for your student loan payments.
Okay, got it. So that's subtracted from your adjusted gross income.
Yes, that's exactly right. It's subtracted from your adjusted gross income, and then whatever amount you have earned in excess of that is dubbed your discretionary income.
Okay.
And then pay as you earn sets your payments at 10% of that amount, your discretionary income.
Got it.
So that's an advantage, is that payments are affordable. Mm-hmm. Other advantages are that there is the possibility of loan forgiveness for certain kinds of folks. There are two different kinds of federal loan forgiveness that are linked to these income-driven repayment plans, like pay as you earn. One is public service loan forgiveness, and that requires you to do specific kind of work. And then the other isn't tied to your employment at all. So you could be employed in any capacity, or you could be unemployed, or anything else.
Oh, okay.
And if you choose an income-driven plan and you make the payments that are required under it for a long time, 20 years under pay as you earn.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it's not a short period of time. Then if there's a balance remaining, the balance is canceled and forgiven, but you have to pay tax on the forgiven amount.
Of course, there's a catch.
Yeah.
Okay, so now this makes sense why it's important to also be on an income-driven plan, because if you're on forbearance, then this doesn't count towards the 20 years.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or it doesn't count towards the public service loan forgiveness.
Right.
Which is earned by making payments on your loans. You have to make 120 qualifying payments, which takes at least 10 years, in order to earn public service loan forgiveness.
And how do you qualify for public service loan forgiveness besides the payments?
Yeah, so the way I like to talk about it is that you have to make the right kind of payments on the right kind of loans while you're working in the right kind of job, and then you have to prove that you've done all those things to the satisfaction of the federal government. And so for a payment to be qualifying, you have to be making a payment under an income-driven plan. So like we just said, you got to be enrolled in one of those plans, and you have to make it on time, the payment, and you have to be working full-time in an eligible position when you make that payment. So the qualifying employment is really broad. You can be working at any level of government, or at any 501c3 nonprofit organization.
Oh, okay.
So that's a lot of advocacy organizations, charitable organizations. It includes a lot of universities, a lot of hospitals. There are many nonprofits. including schools, and then there are many government positions, and it doesn't matter what you do for them. What matters is the tax status of your employer, essentially.
Got it.
So for public service loan forgiveness, you got to be enrolled in an income-driven plan. You got to be working in a qualifying job full time for pay. So volunteer work
doesn't count.
It doesn't count. I mean, it counts.
It counts in life.
It counts towards the greater good.
Yes.
I commend you for it, but as nobody's going to forgive your loans, unfortunately. So, and then also importantly, it has to be a payment made on the right kind of loan, which is going to be a federal direct loan.
So it has to have
only.
direct in the name.
That's correct.
So those FFEL loans.
Those FFEL loans can become eligible for public service loan forgiveness, but they are not unless or until you convert them into direct loans, and you do that by getting a direct consolidation loan. And the direct consolidation loan repays the FFEL loans or FEL loans, so then you can make qualifying payments on the direct consolidation loan.
Got it. Okay, so if you see FFEL, is there any other loan that they should look out for that isn't direct?
Yes. So among federal loans, there's a Perkins loan, which is that you'll see fewer people have them, and our balances are lower because they're reserved for people with extraordinary financial need.
Got you.
And there are a few other federal loans that are specific for health professionals that are not already direct. But the big category of loans that aren't direct are private because they're just not federal, and there's no making them federal.
So private loans just cannot qualify for any of these income-driven plans.
Yes. So from the perspective of the federal government, we don't have private loans, and they're not relieving our private loan burden. Like they don't even factor into any of this. There are some proposals to allow borrowers to refinance private loans into federal loans. Senator Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts has offered legislation to that effect. So
wow, okay,
yeah, that would be a major relief for a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely. So the loans have to be direct loans for you to be able to qualify for any of these income-driven plans, basically.
Well, there's one exception to that.
Oh, of course.
Yes. Yes. So the FEL loans can access income-based repayment only.
Oh, so the IBR.
Yes,
okay.
IBR. You can't
okay.
You can't get pay as you earn or revised pay as you earn or public service loan forgiveness for a FEL loan, but you can choose IBR.
Okay, and then with IBR, what is the forgiveness period?
It's 25 years.
Ooh, okay.
So remember I said there were two kinds of IBR?
Yeah.
So the new IBR that's for new borrowers is only 20 years.
Okay.
But the classic IBR is 25 years.
25 years. And then what's the payment cap for that?
So IBR sets your payments at 15 rather than 10% of your discretionary income. So it's definitely, less beneficial. Obviously you have to pay more and you have to pay it for longer. But it's better than nothing. Like I got to tell you, even IBR didn't start until 2009. And if it if it hadn't taken effect when it did, like you remember the recession started right before that. I mean, there would be massive defaults on federal student loans if not for that program.
Yeah.
Like it couldn't have happened at a more critical moment.
Wow. Okay, so okay, guys, my head is
I think let's take a break.
Let's take a break. We'll talk about private loans afterwards, and also loan consolidation. So you mentioned that briefly, but when does it make sense? Will my interest rate go down? Will it change at all? I feel like those are the kinds of questions that people are wondering in general when they hear the word consolidation. And also, what's the difference between consolidating and refinancing?
And during the break, instead of a song, we're going to play sounds of the ocean and whale noises for you to get your stuff together and breathe and deal. No, I'm kidding. We're going to play a rap song. Don't worry. We are going back to our Raptors. We got the homie. He's been on our show, and you've heard his music all over the place. Broke MC. From his Deadbeats mixtape, to mention his theater credentials, you might have just seen him with the Public Theater in the Bars Workshop. They've got a video that'll be coming up soon. And he wrote a play that was in the Fringe Festival.
Yeah.
I don't know how much people.
There was freestyling in it. Well, faux freestyling.
It's not faux. Well, he wrote rhymes that people rapped up in the song, in
Yes.
the play. Anyway, his name is Broke MC, and he's got Genesis B and Kay Gaines, who recently, when Bonfire had our movie night, I think Pam, for the first time, got to see his film Kung Fu Bum, which is a really great kung fu hip-hop film. And we'll be back in a minute. Brunch and Budget, Bonfire Radio.
What's it about? Most of these ducks just be running their mouths, dumbing it down to something disgusting. I clown the kings, busting disruptions from under their crowns, filling in the blanks with prank shanks and villainous rounds. They got me popping pills in my mouth, dry swallowing songs of Solomon, follow it with a bottle of brown. Breathless silhouettes, and I be calling them out if they freestyles are written, and I'm locking them down. Hip-hop hobbyist horsing around, probably communist expecting a portion. I call it extortion and torture. Flame throwing these lame showmen for leaving the game frozen and breaking them open for peddling fake potion. But it ain't about you, it's about us, the gods we trust, till the bodies turn to moth-wing dust. Keep talking nonsense, pompous, like the fraud you bust. We broke the spell, now don't say nothing till you know your damn self.
It's all about. 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 Said it's all about me.
Making every day mentally enticing, motivational, enlightening. I write measurements effortless, meticulous excellence. My excitement is the precipice of what's next to hit. A testament to take down the pestilence, known as whack rap excrements. Known to be trapped in the trap of detriment to those who lack the knack of betterment. K Games is not a part of the rhetoric. They say image is everything. Watch me do the opposite. Like I don't care who's really watching it. It's all real, far from counterfeit. Invest in self, I'm bound to flip a human monument. Here's a round of sin. Be proud of it, I'm cognizant. We all cognizant. This life we live is plus and minuses. Yeah, your highness is the pauper and designer fit. And it can all be yours depending on what your mind needs.
It's all about. 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 It's all about.
Yeah. Genesis B. It's all about me whenever I feature on it. When I speak on beats, I'm enhancing your economics. And I could never keep a promise, but always keep it honest. They know that she the hottest, fuck you if you sleeping on me. Even when I reek of vomit, I'm still the cleanest on me. She keep my secrets on her, even if I'm cheating on her. Loyalty, we lease a Hummer. Travel for at least a summer, receiving honors. I'm collecting accolades, ready for the last of days. Little homie passed away, never had a chance to say you owe my ass some apple babe. Plus you didn't pay me back for mashed potatoes, baby, that I bought you after prom, and plus the time I gave you Brainiac. Damn, I guess it's all about my lonesome. Sense of humor dry like masturbating with no lotion. Broke MC and in K Games, they feel the same way. Every day's the payday, we give a fuck what they say.
It's all about. 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 Said it's all about me.
And we're back. That was It's All About from the Deadbeats mixtape by Broke MC, K Gaines, and Confederate flag lovers' least favorite human being in the world, Genesis B. We're here Brunch and Budget, Bonfire. Oh, you don't know about Genesis. She was doing some tearing apart
Oh,
the
we'll tell
Confederate
you.
flags, and people weren't feeling it for some reason. Anyway, so we're here with people who do feel those kinds of actions and are looking out for folks. Pam, why don't you tell us what we got going on here? We're here with an actual expert.
An actual student loan expert, Heather Jarvis. AskHeatherJarvis.com. Seriously kicking Congress's ass and making sure that you have student loan pay down options that are actually reasonable and that you can pay down. So we just spent a bunch of time talking about federal loans, and the last thing I want to touch on is when should you consolidate your federal loan, because I feel like a lot of people actually get this question from their student loan servicer if they want to do it.
Yeah, so consolidating your federal loans is not as important as it once was.
Okay.
If you already have all direct loans, so you definitely only have direct federal loans if you've borrowed after the summer of 2010, then there's no super pressing reason to consolidate your federal loans at all or ever. You don't get anything from it. So a federal consolidation loan is a new federal loan that pays off other federal loans. And that can be really important for people who have those older FFEL loans, those FFEL loans, because it's the only way to get them into direct so they can be eligible, for example, for public service loan forgiveness.
So FFEL. Is Stafford one of the loans too?
Yeah, so Stafford is sort of another name for a federal student loan, and usually it was those older federal loans that were referred to as Stafford.
Got it.
You'll also hear them called subsidized or unsubsidized loans.
Yeah.
So, that's whether the government pays the interest for you when you're in school.
Got it. Okay.
Subsidized, they do.
Any of those words that you see, if you want to qualify for public service loan forgiveness.
Yeah, you'll need to make it into a direct loan before you can start making payments that count towards forgiveness. But don't consolidate without knowing why you're doing it and what you might be giving up, because there are a few people who may have already made some payments towards that longer-term 25-year income-based forgiveness.
Oh, you lose all of those payments.
Because what happens is now you have a new loan.
Right.
And it's a brand new baby loan.
Right.
Oh, it's a baby loan.
Except it's not so cute.
No.
It's kind of an ugly baby.
Well, it's like most babies.
Yeah, like a
it
newborn.
keeps you up at night. Spits up all over you. It ruins your social life.
So it is a baby.
Student loans are like babies.
Less cute.
They suck.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Okay, so you don't really need to do it then, and except for those few reasons. Otherwise, what happens to your interest rate? Is there anything crazy that happens?
And not a whole lot. So a consolidation loan is going to have an interest rate that is based on the loans you're consolidating. It's the weighted average of the underlying loan. So it doesn't raise your interest rate, it doesn't lower your interest rate, it just kind of blends your interest rate, which is gives you less flexibility, because then you can't pay the more expensive loans more quickly if they're all blended together.
Got you. Okay, so there is really no benefit unless you want to qualify for public service loan forgiveness or a different income-driven plan.
I mean, it's not that there's no benefit, because it actually makes things simpler to administer. Like, it is a pain to have a bunch of different little loans. Like, it is convenient to have one loan. So, I can imagine scenarios where it would work out for people, but what my sort of bottom line is on consolidation is understand why you're doing it. Don't do it unless you know why you're doing it and what you're going to gain from it. Otherwise, don't do it. So just be sure it's not like an automatic thing. Like, you might want to do it, and if you can't identify why you're doing it, then don't do it until you can.
Perfect. All right, so we have like 3 minutes. Tell us everything we need to know about private loans. Go.
Don't borrow private student loans. And if you already have, like so many of us, read the promissory note. Promissory note is like a bunch of fine print, 2 pages, and anybody who can read it.
Okay.
And you won't remember where to find it, so you can request it from your lender, and then you can read it. And what you want to look for is you need to know for sure whether you have a cosigner, which you probably do. And it's probably someone who loves you, like your mom or your granddad, and you may love them too, right? And so what you want to do is recognize that private loans are usually more expensive and always more risky than federal loans. So look to see if you have a variable interest rate. What that means is that the price of your loan is changing over time, and because of the point we are in history economically, like it's probably cheaper now than it's going to be later. And it may not be cheap at all now. So you want to know your interest rate on your private loan and recognize that it is probably more costly than your federal loans, although not in every case.
Right.
So look to see about that, and then also look to see if you do have a cosigner, see whether there's a cosigner release provision. Many loans have them.
So you can get rid of your cosigner at some point and not have them on the hook.
Yes, and that is a good idea for protecting.
Yeah.
You know, so not absolutely every loan gives that option, but many do, and they'll usually have a requirement like that you will have had to make, 24 monthly payments or something before they'll let you do it, and there may be a credit check involved as well. But there's nothing automatic about it. So like you can meet the requirements of the release and not have the cosigner release. The lender's not going to do it until you demand that they do it and show that you've met their requirements. And you should do that not just to get your mom off your loan, but also so that you don't accidentally have a problem with the loan based on something that's not your fault. So like a cosigner could, God forbid, die or become bankrupt, and that could cause your loan to go into default.
Oh my gosh.
Which would mean they do this horrible thing called acceleration, which means that the entire balance becomes immediately due. So instead of the payment that for the month, the whole dang thing is due. And that's problematic. But recognize that private lenders are limited in their collection authority. Unlike the federal government, they can't just go and start, garnishing your wages unless they are successful in suing you in court and getting a judgment against you.
So they have to sue you before they can garnish.
Exactly.
So you definitely know when they're going to garnish your wages.
You do, and you should never ignore a lawsuit. If you get sued by a lender, you are always better off responding in some way than ignoring it. Always. But if you can't make all your payments on your private student loans, it's possible that you'll be in the sort of situation where you have to make difficult decisions. So if you're making real difficult decisions, pay first for your housing, your utilities, your food, your transportation to and from work before you send a cent to those lenders.
We're gonna end on that. Basically, prioritize your needs before
Take care of yourself first.
Take care of yourself first. Oh my gosh, I feel like we could have gone on for hours. This was
This is part one, right?
This is
this
feels
is part
like
one.
just part one.
I need to hear more.
I know. Heather, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to join us here in San Diego. This was so great. Yeah, I think that's it for now.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, we want to thank Heather Jarvis. Please visit
AskHeatherJarvis.com.
Yes, AskHeatherJarvis.com. And yeah, we're going to send you out with another cat who's been on the show, Mechagodzilla, the homie Rue Black, with the Street Fighter hip-hop musical he's got. This is the song Metsu Ansatsuken, and my Japanese is terrible, so I pronounced that all kind of wrong, but we will check you next week. Brunch and Budget, Bonfire Radio. Peace.
Listen. I spit this heat like Dawson. Hot and scald, and the fans applaud them. Regal tight, ill stay kicking that rawness. Flawless, like Dwayne Wade when soaring. Satsu no Hado made me a monster. Crazy to the point even my own shadow was afraid. I broke that mojo, took my flow back to the dojo. So tight hard, from walking them long goals. Finger push-ups, chest about to explode, Joe. My soul, meditate, build Hado. Got a new way, new vision, perfect precision kicks with the drum patterns on hitting, leave your neck in stitches. Left to right with these words, strap skin. Stay on that Zangief, perpetual back. This 91 to PS 3, so what say we? In life, yo, I'm tripping off that ESP. Read you black off the top, closed captioning. Even if you're deaf in both ears, I make you feel what's happening. I'm on that Blanca, third railing is tag team with the left and right side of my mind. There's no bailing, kid. Street fighter won't call a live wire sire. You are my enemy and you will expire. Whirlwind kicking these drums from every angle. Every day feel the snare and star spangled. No singing, my flow's fascinating. No debating, loving the love, sick of the hatred. You basic, thinking you can really face this. Better be concerned with 2012 while are you waiting. There's no secret code for me defeating these foes. I was taught to keep my hands up and go for gold. Straight lightning, striking the pages when I'm writing. My legacy electrify like Blanca, get hype, kid. Voice kinda sound like thunder. Listen, I'm like more of a mountain, refuse to go under. You black, something like Crusher, real. His will absorb water, but some thoughts still unbreakable. Foundation unshakable. If that big one hits, I'm getting up like thank you. Don't really care about the victor. The castles call him Michael to save victims with wingtips. Stay scaling walls of opposition, like Peter Parker with the spider sense vision. Midgets into crunk, nah. You spitting spam in your glass house, greedy with the green eggs and ham. Me, squeaky clean, spick and span. How about operations fail when you lose fam? Soldier, word is, she tore them lips off. Heard a pussycat cry, kid trying to hide that lip gloss. Halloween, window shopping, wearing a chick dong. Achilles heel bump, these smarmy don't trip boss. Modern Marvel, the secret wars do exist. Read you black and Za, yeah.